Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lily Grace Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest on. She is a photographer and she goes to UNH. Her name is Carys O'Neill. And thank you so much for coming on, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I'm
I'm
excited.
so excited. Yeah, this is going to be so fun. A question that I always start out with is, how do you define your lifestyle?
Um, I would say that the outdoors are a huge part of my lifestyle. People are a huge part of my lifestyle. I just love making connections and I love doing things. I'm a very active person. I would say it's just like very driven by community and connecting with people. I have a lot of friends and my family. So just doing things with the people that I love. I love being outside and surfing and skiing, and then obviously photos is a huge part of my life. But yeah, just very social and active.
I love that. Yeah. I love that because I that reminds me kind of my sister and I, because I'm the social one, but she's the active one. Like she loves to snowboard and do all that crazy stuff, but I like people. So love that. It's a good
Yeah,
balance between the two.
it
And
is.
did you grow up playing sports? Like where are you from? You go to UNH. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the seacoast of New Hampshire, where I
Nice.
still am today. I started playing soccer when I was like 2 or 3 or something. I joined like my preschool team. My dad was my coach, and I played soccer all the way up until freshman year of high school. My dad was my coach every year. I loved it. Yeah, I grew up. I was actually homeschooled growing up, which is really exciting.
Huh.
So I had a lot of really cool opportunities, a really big homeschool community. And so that led me into being able to do early college at Great Bay Community College. So I did dual enrollment there.
Nice.
And I knew I wanted to do nursing. So that's why I'm at UNH. I'm there for nursing right now, which is super awesome. So I was able to do like all my gen eds and prereqs. And then obviously my photography has always been there throughout high school. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now. And then surfing and skiing, I've done that for a long time too. So
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Yeah. I have to say, I grew up in New Hampshire my whole life, and I'm very familiar with the seacoast and all of that and UNH area. And I moved to Mass recently because I went to
Mm-hmm.
school in Boston and I officially moved there. And I have to say, there's a special place in my heart for New Hampshire and especially the seacoast.
Mm,
There's nothing like
yes.
it.
No, it's like I tell people, I had someone ask me, why should I go to UNH? And I was like, okay, well, here's the thing. You have the mountains, you have the beach, you have so
Yep.
many opportunities. It's very community based, I feel like, even though a
Mhm.
lot of people think we're cold New Englanders. You
Yeah.
get 4 seasons. So yeah, there's something really special about New Hampshire.
Yeah, for sure. And I've connected a lot with entrepreneurs like yourself from Southern Maine and like the New Hampshire seacoast and even Mass. And it's like so cool to kind of find similar people. And I feel like people at UNH, like I was saying, my cousin did nursing and she does photography. They have their hobbies and they have their like creativity and then their main major. So it's kind of cool to see that and how people are.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. So overall, how did you find photography or how'd you get into it? How'd you know you like cameras?
Yeah. So it was actually funny growing up. My sister was the photographer. We have a whole album of prints. She used to do a lot of like outdoor photography. But so that's like, it's kind of weird that I ended up getting into it more than her. But I would say, I think it was 2017. My family bought a camera for Christmas, just a family camera. It was a Sony, which is still what I'm shooting on today. I love it. And I just kind of picked it up and started taking pictures of our family, our dog, just random things. I kind of just realized I liked it and I started watching YouTube videos and getting into it and just kept practicing. And I think by like the summer of 2018, I had some friends asking to take pictures for them of just their families or their kids. And I was still learning. So I was like, okay. And I did a lot of just by donation, just to like, just start getting a feel for it. And then I had like my first paid client in like the end of the summer in 2018, and kind of the rest is history. So it was kind of out of the blue, but I'm glad that I found it, and I'm grateful my family let me use their camera. So yeah,
Yeah, totally. Isn't that the best though? Kind of when you find things that you had no idea you loved. I feel
exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like you have the personality for it because I feel like photographers, you kind of have to be outgoing and a little spunky and
Mm.
like out there just because like just to make your client smile and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Um which is a big part of it. So that's so cool. And it sounds like you kind of just naturally got into it, which I love. And did you ever take a class? You said you did YouTube, which is basically like going to school.
Yeah, I never officially took a class. I say the YouTube was more of like, oh, okay, what does this setting do on my camera? Or
Yeah.
I don't know how to change this, but my two cousins are professional photographers down in
Oh,
Alabama, so I use them as a resource a lot, and just friends and just reaching out to people. But I have never bought or taken an official class, which I think is kind of crazy. But so pretty much just trial and error at this point.
I honestly love it, and it's so professional. To be honest, I thought you were a lot older, and I thought you've been doing this for years and years, because when I saw your Instagram and your work, I'm like, this is so good. You took photos for Anna Grace, who was on, you took photos for Emma Brunette, who's on, and I just thought it was like so professional. I was like, there's no way that she's younger than me, and like it just looks so good. So I would never know.
Yeah. Ah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you kind of have like an old soul vibe anyway. Like you seem older than you are.
Oh.
So I can tell. But it's so funny. I think we all have cousins who are photographers. Maybe it's just
I
a
think
thing.
so. Yeah. I think it's a thing. You have to, there's got to be one in the family.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't that the best? Because then you can just
Yes.
get all your school photos, your senior photos, all the photos.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's so funny because I've had I think probably 4 to 5 photographers on the show, but each one is so different but so talented in their
Mm,
own way. And I'm gonna have to book a shoot with
yes.
you for the future because it's like
Ah.
so cool.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. I would love that.
Yeah. So in general, how often do you shoot? How does that work with school? I'm sure you're busy.
Yes, definitely pretty busy. I started, I would say, ramped up the most my like later in high school, and then obviously this year still figuring things out with college and whatnot. In the summer, I'm usually pretty busy. There'll be times where I have multiple shoots a week, and still balancing because I also work in healthcare. I work at Portsmouth Regional Hospital
Nice.
as well, and then also in assisted living just because of nursing. So
Yeah.
definitely tough to balance those things. But I would say in my main, especially during senior season when all the seniors are looking for pictures, usually August to September, it's usually multiple times a week. Um, but in the winter, it's usually a little bit more common because people aren't usually looking for shoots in the winter. So that's my time to kind of work my other job. But it's definitely really hard to balance with school. And being homeschooled and because of COVID being online with Great Bay Community College, I was able to utilize a lot of
Mm,
time for photo shoots just because I wasn't in
nice.
class. But it's tricky. It's definitely running around busy quite a bit. But it's worth it. So yeah.
Yeah, huh, that's so interesting. And you mentioned senior living. That's kind of like has a special place in my heart because my nana
Mm.
was there a few years ago. That's what I did. I designed a senior living facility for my senior capstone. I'm an interior designer.
Wow.
So I just like
Wow.
love that kind of like environment. And I just think it's so
Mm.
cool to see like people working there. And especially during COVID, it's insane. So which one do you
Oh
work
yeah.
at? Are you allowed? Do you want to say? You don't have to.
Yeah, I know. I can say, yeah, I work at Cornerstone Assisted Living in Hampton.
Nice.
So it just opened 2.5 years ago. So it's very new and it's part of SLR,
Yep.
Senior Living Residence, as I'm sure you know. But yeah, so I love it. It's a beautiful facility. And obviously I came right in after COVID. I started working there
Yeah.
like a month after COVID cleared up a little bit. So it was the summer of 2020, pretty much, early summer. And I've been there ever since. And I really adore it. And it also holds a special place in my heart. I love working with the elderly. I think it's a
Aw.
very misunderstood population. And so
Mm.
I'm really glad that I can do that. And I'm actually hoping to kind of bring photography into that once COVID settles down.
Oh.
I want to do portraits for families of their loved ones who live in my
Aw.
facility. So yeah,
I love that. That's such a good idea. Because I was
yeah.
listening to this other person's idea and they're talking about recording like audio with their family members. And I've done that. Like when my
Mm,
grandfather was alive, I'd interviewed him and I still have that audio recording, which is kind of cool. But I think having photos, especially when they're at that stage of life, is like so
mm,
memorable and like precious. So that's so cool.
exactly. Yeah.
And then you
So hoping
said,
to get that started.
yeah, that's so cool. And you said you work at the hospital too, one of the hospitals in New Hampshire. Do you think like you're leaning towards one setting versus the other, senior living or?
Mm. That's a tough one. I'm still figuring that out. I really adore both, and I actually the floor that I work at my hospital, I usually get more elderly people. I work on a
Huh.
cardiac unit, and so I usually have people who have come in from heart surgeries, and so usually older. Um, but it's tough because I really do love both, and I'm excited to kind of get a feel for everything once I
Mm.
kind of really get towards the end of my college years. But I don't know, honestly, at this point. I'm not sure because they're both really awesome.
Huh. That is so cool. I love that you have kind of both sides. Like I was saying, my cousin's a nurse, and she kind
Yeah.
of talks about what it's like being a nurse versus being a photographer because you're using two
Mm.
different parts of your brain, I think, and it's just like
Oh yeah.
totally different. But I feel like in a sense it's a very sympathetic job, both of them. So it's kind of
Yes.
cool to see that.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. Actually, I just met a girl who's a nurse who went to college or high school with my cousin. It's all the cousins.
Yeah.
And she just started her own photography business. She's doing awesome. She's a labor and delivery nurse. So there's
Wow.
a few out there who are kind of the nursing and photography, and I agree. It's both very personable and like
Yeah.
it's a big connection. So yeah.
Totally. And yeah, that's kind of cool. Labor and delivery, maybe she does like the newborn stuff. There's so much you can do with photography too.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So
It's totally endless, like, yeah, field. There's so much.
yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned before we get into all the funny stories and stuff, you mentioned film photography. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that?
Yes. So I have I didn't realize that film was kind of coming back until maybe like this year, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people out there who are doing film stuff. And I do a lot of surf skate photography too, and that's kind of
Hmm,
infiltrated the surf skate world, especially in Hawaii and California.
cool.
That very like vibey film style. And so that kind of comes in a little bit into my editing with that just very like warm style. But I was like, I want a film camera. So I was actually gifted a film camera from a friend, and I bought some lenses for it, got the film. And so I've
Wow.
been shooting on it and I adore it. So I want to offer that to my clients because it's just so timeless and like effortless, and it's great because you don't really edit it. You just it's just so
Yeah.
beautiful in the way it comes when you develop it. So I'm hoping that I can get clients who are interested in that, especially couples. It's a very couple-esque type of
Yeah.
style, and have people hire me for that. So just trying to find other people who appreciate that niche. So
I
yeah.
do appreciate that. And I think it will set you apart too, because you said it's like coming back and it's kind of a thing, which is kind of cool. But I don't know a lot of photographers, to be honest, who do that who do that yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
is this a silly question? In high school, there was a photography class. I didn't take it, but I saw them kind of producing the film in a dark room. Is that the type of film you will use, or do you just print it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so I take it to a place in Dover to get it developed. It's
Oh.
called Photosmith. I don't have my own dark room. I would love to do that at some point. It's just a little bit more effort, but that's how they develop it. They either they get the negatives, and they have to scan it in digitally after they develop it, just so I can have it digitally, but they
Yeah.
also have prints for it. So it's really cool. They're one of the only
Huh.
like um, original like film developing labs in New Hampshire, I think in like New England. So totally
Crazy.
recommend them if you're looking for disposables to get developed or just any film rolls. But yeah, it's
Huh.
cool.
That is so neat. Yeah. Cause I'm sure it takes a while for them to do that too. So it's like a whole process, which is
It
really cool.
is. Yeah, it usually it takes about like a week or so. So and you get them in a gallery, and then you can go up and
Yeah.
pick up your prints if you want. So
Oh,
definitely a little more of a process, but it's worth it.
yeah, totally. And like you said, it has that warmer tone, the warmer tones to it and the color. So
Mhm.
it kind of makes it a little bit more like intimate and lovey in a sense.
Yes.
Like, so
Oh
it's
yeah.
so gorgeous. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. Um, So now we're going to get into some funny stories that you've had in the past, because I talked to a lot of photographers, like I said. So I want to change this one up a little bit, this episode, and kind of talk about what happens behind the scenes. Because we always talk about, oh, this photo is gorgeous. It was printed in this time, which we love because people can check out your Instagram for that. But I want to know what happens behind the scenes. So can you tell us what happens behind the scenes of a photo shoot, say for a senior portrait?
Yeah, nitty-gritties of like what are they looking for, where do they want it to be, what's like what do they want to get out of it. just because some people have different ideas of how many outfit changes, how many locations, how long they want their shoot to be. So it's my first base. And then I just love to talk about, I figure out who they are, what kind of things they like. Do they want to bring maybe a sibling in or a significant other? I've had people come with their boyfriends or girlfriends, which I think is really sweet.
Yeah.
Just any of their hobbies if they want to include those. So just really like vision casting for my clients, just figuring out how best we can use our time and
Hmm.
what they're looking for. And then once we figure that out, once we get a date and a time and we're set, I'm always charging everything, charging batteries, bringing, making all my equipment,
Yeah.
emptying SD cards, all of that. Obviously, the technical side that is not so fun, but is necessary. But yeah, just I think the biggest thing is just making sure that me and my client are on the same page with our expectations and what
Mm.
we want to get out of the shoot, because I want them to enjoy their time. I want it to be stress free. So answering any questions they have, just kind of building that prior relationship to the shoot. And then if I don't know them or haven't known them before, obviously meeting them at the shoot, we already have a connection and we already know about each other. And so it's easy just to flow right into the photo shoot. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the for senior pictures, especially, that's usually the general timeline.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And you mentioned the technical side, like charging all your batteries and making sure everything's with you, the lenses, all that jazz. Has there ever been a time where it like died or like you forgot something? Like,
There have been times I had probably this would go along with the embarrassing story. I was doing photos for Lincoln Ackerman, which is the school in Hampton Falls, and they had a daddy-daughter dance, and it was
oh,
had to get canceled because of COVID,
oh,
and or the photographer had to get canceled because of COVID. So I went around and had an assignment of like a certain amount of families, and we kind of split it between a few photographers. And I was driving around like Hampton Falls and doing photos for people going to their houses and getting pictures of the daughters and their dads and the families.
oh.
And I only brought one SD card, and this was a while ago, so I don't make this mistake anymore. And I didn't empty it all the way, and my other SD card wasn't working. I had an old camera. This is before I bought my new one, and so things were just glitching out, and I ran out of space in the middle of a shoot, and I literally had to excuse myself, go to the car. I called my mom, and I was like, "Can you drive me something?" Like she wasn't. I don't think she was home, and I was like, "I'm panicking. What do I do?" And so my last resort was to, after every photo, like go back and I just like deleted a ton of like old photos on the SD card to make room for these new pictures. And it was this like every second counted. And then like I ran out of room so many times I would have to
Oh,
like just be like, okay, and just like totally play it cool. And because I didn't want anyone to know and like delete things. It was the most stressful like thing because I had to drive around to so many people. So I was in the
yeah.
car like deleting pictures, and then to keep the new ones. So it was a mess. So I learned my lesson. Always empty your SD cards before and make sure you have extras.
That's
So
a really good tip. That's awesome. And then what sets you apart from other photographers, maybe other than the film photography that you're going to start doing?
yeah. Honestly, I would say my age, obviously being younger, a lot of people don't expect it in the industry. But I think it helps me kind of gauge like to my generation, or a lot of people that are getting married now and the couples and seniors
Mhm.
too, because it kind of gives me a different perspective about like even like the basic things of like what's trending or like how to like
Mm.
connect to these people, because I was there not that long ago, or I am there right now. And also I would say just my love for working with nonprofits too.
Huh.
I really love having other jobs, like with nursing, because I can give back to my community through my photography, and I don't need to charge out the nose or charge anything at all because I have other incomes coming in. So I really love that part, and I really enjoy just like working with people in that way, just to like get their nonprofit out there and get their vision out there. So yeah, I think those are the two big things. But
I love that. I love that. And off the top of your head, could you tell me how many shoots you've done since you started? Or that's probably crazy.
oh my gosh, so many, so many. I honestly, I probably, I mean, sometimes in the summer I'm doing 3 a week, and then obviously like in the off season, and it's been years, a lot,
A lot. Yeah,
a
I
lot.
figured.
Yeah, Not as much as like some people obviously, but a good, like a very solid good amount.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It really does. And like I was saying, like when I saw your Instagram and your work, I was like, there's no way she just started. Or not that you didn't just start, but you know what I mean? Like you've only been doing it for a handful of years, and I thought you were doing it for like 1,000 because it looks so good.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then can you tell us the most outrageous client story that you have?
Ooh, okay. I would say I have two main ones. One is pretty quick. I was at a wedding, and it was a very bougie wedding. It was at the Omni Mount Washington Resort.
Oh,
It
love.
was beautiful. And I had quite the funny situation with the bride's brother where he was totally, hitting on me the whole time. And I was underage and he's trying to get me to drink alcohol. And I was like, I'm not old enough. And he was like, I don't care. And I have this picture of him, I think it's the funniest photo, where he had two glasses of champagne and he was like coming up to me. He's like, hi. And I like took a photo, and I just have that photo because I was like taking pictures of the reception. And it's the funniest thing. And as many times as I was like, no, 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 he was so pushy. It was hilarious though.
Oh my God.
But yeah, the worst one I would say, I did photos for some girls graduating from college, and they wanted just photos around the campus and photos with each other and their cap and gowns, the whole shebang. And it went great. They were super sweet. There were like 6 or 7 of them, so it was a good group of girls. They
Mm,
all lived together in an apartment. And they wanted them in, I usually say about like a 2-week turnaround for those type of shoots. Weddings are longer.
yeah.
And they wanted them pretty soon because they wanted them before they were graduating.
Hmm.
And so the Sunday before they were graduating, so about a week before they were graduating, it'd only been a week since I took them. They were asking for them, and I was like, I'm actually at my high school graduation right now.
Oh
So I
gosh.
unfortunately can't give them to you today. Hoping to give them to you in the next couple days. It wasn't even close to deadline, so I wasn't stressing. The next day they asked me, and I was like, yep, like the next couple of days, like I'll make sure I get you to them. So they were getting a little annoyed, and I was conversing with this one girl, and then that next day I was in a surfing accident and ended up in the
Oh
ER
gosh.
with I had like a really bad concussion, a massive black eye. I got a fin to
Oh,
the face, so I had I'm still healing from that. I had a small fracture. Well, they're pretty short because I have like nerve damage now. So I was
oh
in the ER. They had to dilate my eyes. I couldn't see. So I had like
gosh.
my mom like helping me text these people, and they were like, we want our photos. If you can't get them to us, like you need to give us the unedited versions. And I was like, I don't give unedited versions. They knew I was in the ER. They didn't care
Yeah.
at all. They were like this. I was like, it hasn't even been 2 weeks. Like I will get them to you as soon as possible. Like I cannot see my computer. I had to, like, I didn't need to explain my medical situation to them, but I did because they were so pushy, and this girl had no remorse.
My
And
goodness.
she was so rude, so rude. And so I just was like, I'm gonna get to them as soon as I can. And I just with my concussion and really not supposed to be on a screen, I
Yeah.
just like worked. I just had to because I was gonna like, she was gonna probably just like be such a bad like rap for my business. I was like, I just have to pull through.
Hmm.
And I give them to her. She didn't even really say thank you or that she liked them. They didn't tag me when they posted them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I just was like, well, what can you do? I still got them to her under 2 weeks,
Yeah.
because they were so pushy, but she just was like, I want a refund, like totally two-faced, was so nice, and then just like turned on me. But
Oh my
you live
gosh.
and you learn, and there was nothing I could do. Everyone was like, you we're in hospital. Like, so anyway, that was probably my worst one, I would say.
That is pretty outrageous. And we all have clients like that, unfortunately, but it makes you learn to
Mm,
be patient and really
yes.
appreciate the ones you love. So, love that in that sense.
Yes. Love my good clients. They're awesome.
That's so awesome. And then have you ever shot an engagement? Like, has there ever been an engagement in front of you and then you had to like hide in the bush and then come out and take photos?
Oh, yes, there was. So this is like my favorite shoot story. So my best friend, one of my best friends, she they were planning on getting engaged in the near future, but I did not realize it would be so soon. And her fiance messaged me. I'd known them like my whole life, just good family friends, and was like, Carys, like, I think it's going to be sooner than you'd think. And I was like, oh, he's like maybe in the next like week or two. And I was like, oh, like I was expecting like 6 to 8 months. Like I was not
Yeah.
expecting now. And I had just done a couple shoot for them like that week. And he was like, I'm just going to do it. So we planned this whole thing of, we want to redo some pictures. Like I've had the model for me a lot in the past. Just adore the two of them. And so we went back to the same place because he wanted to do it at the same places where they had their first date.
Oh.
And we just planned it under the guise of like, oh, I want some different outfits, some different vibes. I really like that location. I wish we'd gone a little earlier when it was a little bit more golden hour, less like later sunset. And so I didn't have to hide because they knew it was happening.
Okay.
But basically what I did was we had like, me and her fiance had like a queue of when we were going to do it. And we waited a little bit and it was really fun. And they dressed up and I propped my phone up on my backpack so I could video them. And if it's actually a reel on my Instagram. It's like one of the first ones. Yeah, it's really cute. And he just popped down and there I was taking all the photos. So I got her full reaction.
I love
it.
it.
It was the cutest thing. And so they're actually getting married on Sunday and I'm one of the bridesmaids. So
congratulations to them.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh, thank you. So yeah, the rehearsal dinner is tomorrow. And so it's just crazy that this was October of 2020.
Wow.
So now here we are in 2021 and they're a year later getting married. So that was my favorite and it's probably still will always be my favorite one.
Oh my gosh, did you cry?
I think I almost did. It was close. It was really special and it was really sweet. And just having them cry, it's just like, like I was just getting there.
My f-stop here, like don't mind me.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about them is they're just really good about being in their own world. So it was like I wasn't even there. And so I just love that, being able to just be in the moment and not be distracting for them. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, because sometimes I watch like engagement videos and I literally like bawl my eyes out. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I tell my boyfriend, not that I'm gonna get engaged anytime soon, but I'm like, you better have like a photographer hiding in the bush because I need this moment captured. Except I know all the photographers, so I don't know what he's gonna do. No, just kidding, but he'll be fine.
You gotta like give him a list now.
Yeah, I know.
Just be like, here, pick from whenever that happens. Use this as a reference.
It's so funny. But actually, his grandmother is a photographer, and he has a camera. So like, worst comes to worst, she can hide in a bush. And like,
oh, true.
No, I think that's great. Engagements and weddings are just the funnest, like cutest things ever. I can't.
No, they're incredible. I love them.
Yeah. And then you talked about the most embarrassing story. Do you have like
the SD card?
yeah. And then do you have like a funny story, just something that like you couldn't hold in your laughter?
Honestly, this was unfortunate, but it was like so ironic and funny at the same time that it just was funny. I was at a state park doing a senior photo shoot for one of my friends. And so we just carpooled together. And we get to the end of the shoot and we get back to the parking lot and they had locked us in. And so they shut the gate to the state park and a ton of people got locked in and there was like, I swear, almost like a riot was started. And I like videoed some of it because it was so so crazy. The poor parking dude was, it's really rude, but he was like, it's not my fault. I can't unlock the gate. You're going to have to call the cops. And like, there's all these people. And this one guy was like about to throw hands. And I'm just sitting there with my friend and we were like in the front of the line and we were like, oh, like, let's please. Like, and like, everyone is just like screaming at everyone. And they were like, we don't want to get this ticket. And he's just writing tickets on each of our license plates as he's just like ignoring all these people. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you writing us a ticket? And he was like, it's my job. So he left. He just, he left and he actually locked the gate before he was supposed to. And so we had to call the cops and like I went up to the cop before everyone flooded him and I was like, just so you know, we've got some angry people. And sure enough, like screaming and yelling ensued. And we ended up getting the ticket appealed because he closed the gate early. But I was just laughing, honestly. It was kind of stressful, but it was kind of funny just because we're like, well, here we are locked in this state park. So yeah.
That is funny. You know, it's really funny. Like just thinking about your stories, like camera is proof.
Yeah. I have the video of him. I was like, here's his face. Like we got it. So yeah, it helps definitely for sure.
Yeah. Next job will be part of like the CIA or something.
Yes.
So what's the most memorable career or moment in your career that you've had so far? It could be nursing or photography.
Ooh, there's definitely two things there. I'll go with like I think the biggest one. I would say so. There's a summer camp that I grew up going to up in way up in Maine. It's like 6 hours, 5 hours away.
Wow.
Wicked far. Yeah, it's in Jackman, Maine, like right by the Canadian border. And there's a summer camp there that I grew up going to. And I was able to be on staff this past year for a month and do all their photography and social media.
Wow.
The camp is called Moose River Outpost. And I think that was just like such a cool time of just like really embracing like candid camp photography of kids and staff and just it's a beautiful location, right? Like in the mountains and with this
Mm.
gorgeous lake in the middle of nowhere. Like there's nowhere. Like the nearest like Starbucks is like like 100 miles away or something ridiculous like that. Like it's wicked far. And so that just was like such a cool time to unplug and really just embrace like doing photography just like all day and like not having like a specific agenda, but just capturing moments and capturing people that isn't like posed. Like all my shoots are so planned when it comes to time for the lighting
Mm.
and the posing and the outfits, but going somewhere where you're not worried about the weather or what people are wearing, but just
Yeah.
capturing, yeah, what's going on at the camp was so awesome. And I would say I just like really hold that dear to my heart. And hopefully we'll be going back next summer.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I just think like you're right. The candid shots are so like so cool and you can't stage that. You can't just
Yeah,
make that up. So that's cool.
exactly. Yeah.
And I assume if you weren't a photographer, you'd be a nurse. But do you
Yes.
have like a backup career? Like say like you have a third career in mind?
Um, let's see. I always wanted to be like a vet or a vet tech growing up. I'm a huge animal person, so I
Oh,
would say that would be a big thing. But honestly, just like my sister co-founded a ministry called Down the Line Ministries, and it's a outreach to youth and action sports, so surfing, skateboarding, skiing, and
wow.
snowboarding. Yeah, and so she that has been a huge thing in my life, helping with that and using photography with that, but also just like reaching out to the youth in our community, because that just that type of youth is very troubled, just community, and so there's a lot that we can do in just reaching out to those types of kids, and I adore it. So I would say just like going forward with working with ministry or nonprofits, I would just love that and hopefully can tie that in with my photography, nursing, kind of make a schmosh pit of
Yeah.
things. But definitely being involved in something like that would be amazing, and traveling and doing surf camps.
Oh, so
So
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you do so much. It's all so interesting though, and it all makes sense together. So I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. And what is one thing that being a photographer taught you about yourself, do you think?
Hmm. I would say honestly, growing up in just the culture we live in, there's a lot of focus on like just yourself and like this your life and your story, which is true
Mm,
to an extent. But I think photography really helped me just to see that there's so much more out there, and there's a lot of bigger picture things, and
yeah.
just everyone has their own story, and being able to connect with so many different people and capture that through photography and meet people really puts in perspective like that there are so many moving parts in our world, and it's not
Mm,
just on you. So I really think it just taught me how, and like taught me to see in myself that it's so easy just to believe one thing about someone, or to just like neglect a lot of things and a lot of people. And so I think photography just helped me to just see things in a broader, more holistic perspective, I would say.
I love that. And I honestly can totally relate and agree because I feel like with this podcast, it's like the same thing. I realize that people are there's so much depth to each person and there's such a
Mm,
big picture. And we're always thinking about what's next for us and like what's happening with us. But it's like, it gives you, like I was saying, like sympathy for other people and empathy for other people. So it's interesting how
exactly.
these creative fields do that to us. So
Yes, for sure.
yeah, I love that. And then what is one last piece of advice that you can give to someone starting out in this photography industry?
Say the two biggest things. I'm gonna cheat and not do one. Practice, practice, practice. If you have a camera and you just you just want to start taking pictures, take pictures of everything, bring it with you, take pictures of your friends, your family, ask people to model for you. Just really get familiar with your camera and what you want to do with it. And you got to start somewhere. So might as well just start taking pictures of everything and figure
Right.
out what you want to do with it. But the more practice you have, the better off you're going to be, and just be confident about it and think highly of yourself, and give yourself some credit. Don't just be like, I'm so bad, I can't do this. Like, put your mind to it, I would say, and just yeah, just like try everything. And like the biggest thing for me was that I just took pictures all the time. I took pictures of like, even just, it was like one of my friends or like my
Yeah.
sister all the time, and like maybe I didn't post them anywhere, they didn't go anywhere, but every time I learned something new. And then I would say the second biggest thing, which might even be bigger than this, is networking.
Yes.
Use social media, comment on people's posts, reach out to photographers, respond to stories. Just be active, because it'll get your name out there. And people might reach out to you to ask you to second shoot for them, or like be your mentor, or just give you some tips, because if you build those relationships, you can feel confident in sending someone a message and being like, hey, I have a question about this. Like, what do you say about this? Like, do you like this edit that I have? And that's what I did. And it helped a ton. And just like building connections with other photographers, because I love helping new photographers, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me about that kind of stuff, and I love answering their questions. And I'm always open to that, but you just gotta put yourself out there and like let yourself receive that advice, and I think you'll be pretty good off, honestly.
100%. I can totally agree with that because I'm all about mentorship and reaching out and connection. So I love kind of the whole message that we talked about on this show, along with the funny moments that you've lived throughout your photography career. And finally, can you plug yourself and tell people where they can find you?
Yes. So my Instagram is sona.co.photo. So it's
Mhm.
sona.co.photo. And then my website is sonaandcophoto.com. So on my Instagram, you can find pretty much everything you need there. But yeah, give me a follow. I'll probably follow you back and we can collab. But yeah, that anyone, yes, reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I learned so much about you and I just love your attitude on life.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.